Hello, and welcome to UNC Health Southeastern's COVID-19 Vaccination Forum. Today, I'd like to introduce you to our panelists who are going to share information about why you should consider taking the COVID-19 vaccine. We have Dr. Robin Peace, a family medicine physician here with UNC Health Southeastern, Dr. Dennis Stuart, also a family medicine physician, Dr. Garik, our ED medical director at UNC Health Southeastern, Eric Locklear, he's our pharmacy director, and we have our president and CEO, Mrs. Joann Anderson. Welcome to you all.
Thank you.
So Dr. Peace has agreed to start our forum, and she's going to begin sharing information about why you should consider taking the COVID-19 vaccine.
Thank you, Amanda. And I appreciate the opportunity to come and speak to the community today. This pandemic has affected all of us individually and collectively. The vaccine is just one of the tools that we have now that can help us to fight this pandemic that has taken so many lives. I've had several patients that have died from COVID-19, and I think that it's important that every person really seriously think about the importance of what that could do for them and their family. I took the vaccine. I took my second shot last Thursday. I have been very vocal about that journey. The first shot, I had a little soreness in my arm. With the second shot, I did get a headache the following day. I did feel some mild body aches, and I felt fatigued. More so than usual at the end of a long day. But when I went to bed that night and I woke up the next day, I felt back my normal self. There can be side effects that are more significant than that, but I have not heard any patient or anyone that has taken the vaccine that regretted taking it because of some type of side effect that they experienced. I want people to know the facts. I believe that the vaccine is safe, and it has been proven to be more than 94–95% effective in keeping you from getting seriously ill from COVID and potentially dying. That's enough for me. You know, the fact that I can take these 2 shots and know that I am not going to die from COVID. Okay, to date, I'm not aware of anyone that has died from the vaccine. I realize that there is a report of a physician that died 2 or 3 weeks following the vaccine. They are still investigating that. But that is one individual. It's not been shown yet. I don't believe that that is what happened to that person. And I say it because people will read things, you know, on the internet, on social media, and they will use that one thing to make them make a choice that could affect them and their family. I don't want to be the reason that someone gets COVID and potentially gets sick. It is a suffering that has been very difficult for those of us to watch as medical providers. And so my prayer is that everyone would be fully informed about what the facts are. I believe that the benefits of the vaccine so far outweigh any risk. I just this morning spoke to someone at the gym that has severe allergies, enough that they take allergy shots on a weekly basis, and they took the vaccine and they are fine. You are observed after you take it for a period of 15 to 30 minutes, because it has been shown that if you are going to have a serious allergic reaction, it is going to happen during that time. So I just want to encourage the general public to just please think about it, pray about it, and know that this vaccine will save lives in our community.
Thank you, Dr. Peace. And now we're going to move to our panelist, Dr. Dennis Stuart, to talk a little bit about COVID-19 vaccine.
Thank you, Amanda, and thank you so much for asking me to be a part of this panel with such an august group. I too am a family physician, and I've been doing this for over 35 years. And being a preacher and teacher of wellness in my practice, which is predominantly adults and geriatrics. I've always been taught that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And anything that we can prevent, we should ardently work toward doing that. Here we want to prevent death. And the patient population which I see, the possibility of death from COVID-19 is insurmountable. And fighting this disease with facts is what this is all about, is what this program is about. And I think each one of this panel, as well as those who we come in contact, we need to preach and teach and encourage and discourage misbelief. I like wearing my button that says I took this shot, but it's blank. It doesn't say, well, what'd you take it for? I could take it for you, I could take it for me, I could take it for thee, I could take it to live, I could take it for whatever. But the reason is that I have taken it. I also completed my second vaccination just 2 days ago. I must admit that I had no effects. I had maybe a little sore arm that I would receive from having my flu vaccine. I had no headache. I slept just as good that night as I did before. My patients say I act no different than I did the last time they saw me 3 months ago, so I assume that it has no effect. I feel no modulation in my head. No one is monitoring me, nothing of that nature. All the things that are spread through social media. And it's so easy for us, particularly those who are misinformed, to believe misinformation a great deal, much more, or even faster than correct information. So as Dr. Pease has so proficiently said, is that we must fight our fears with facts. And when people we're coming on this conversation or going out to are people who have had the experience, have walked the walk, therefore we feel qualified to talk the talk. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I am an avid proponent of vaccinations in general. COVID-19 specifically, still wear your mask, social distance, and wash your hands until we know better. It's all about living.
Thank you, Dr. Stuart. And now we're going to hear from Dr. Eric Misenar. He is the Emergency Department Medical Director at UNC Health Southeastern.
Thank you, Amanda. And again, like Dr. Stuart and Dr. Pease, I have also had both of my vaccines. I finished my second one last week. My arm was a little sore. I felt, a little poorly that day. I didn't have a headache. I was perfectly fine. I worked that night and have worked most days since then. I've had no problem. Dr. Stuart and Pease actually made very good points about the vaccine itself. Personally, I'll give a little bit of a different perspective. Again, I'm an emergency department physician, have been for 18 years. I've worked in many different ERs throughout the country. Most recently, just before coming to Southeastern, I actually spent 4 months in a COVID ICU in South Texas. And I lived this disease firsthand. I did not catch it. It wasn't like that, but I saw what these patients are going through. And the first moment that I had the opportunity to take the vaccine, I was in line as early as possible. This is not the flu. Yes, some people have some flu-like symptoms. Some people feel poorly. Some people have nothing at all. But when this hits, I've never seen anything that hits like this. The amount of lung disease associated with this is, again, unlike anything I've seen in my career. This disease is the first thing I've seen that literally scares me. The other part of it, again, from a social standpoint, in the old days before this happened, you'd get sick, you'd go to the hospital, your family would come visit, they may bring food. You got to actually feel like you were part of a community. And again, you saw your group from church and your friends and everybody came to see you. With COVID, they can't. Your family members can't come to see you. So you're sick and in the hospital. You're in the intensive care unit and it feels lonely. That is different than anything else that I've ever seen. And watching patients in an ICU, knowing that their family wants to be with them, but they can't, again, just causes pain. And that was the biggest reason that I had for getting this. It's not the people who have no symptoms. It's not that. Again, it's not selfish. It's that, again, this disease literally can kill you. And yes, the people who are older, the people who have other illnesses already are at higher risk, but it's not just those people. Again, my experience is that this disease has hit all walks of life. It has hit every age group. Again, very few children, but over the age of 18, again, I've seen at this point entirely too much. And honestly, I want this thing to go away as fast as is possible. And so, yes, the reason to take the vaccine, again, Dr. Stuart alluded to, it's not just it's for me. It is literally for everyone. I took the vaccine, yes, to protect myself. Of course, I have a family I want to protect. I also want to protect every patient that I'm around. I want to protect the nurses that I work with, every single person I run into at the grocery store, everybody. The reason to take this vaccine is to protect all of us. Yes, you protect yourself. You also protect your neighbors and your family. And that's where this is different. We still have to keep doing what we have been doing with masking and social distancing and trying to prevent the spread. But the best way that we have to prevent this as a national disease, as an international pandemic, is to take the vaccine, to get as many people as possible vaccinated as quickly as possible. Because again, I want patients to be able to have family members at the bedside. I want the sick people to feel the hand of the loved one when they're in the hospital. And as long as this disease is raging through our community, and it is everywhere, it is every day. As long as this disease is as prevalent as it is, everything will stay the way it is. You won't be able to visit friends and family in the hospital. You won't be able to do what you normally want to do. I want everything to open back up. I want it to go back to normal. The best and fastest way to do that is to get the vaccine. As soon as you are eligible, sign up, get the vaccine, you will be fine.
Thank you, Dr. Misenar. And now we're going to hear from Eric Locklear. He is the Director of Pharmacy for UNC Health Southeastern.
Thanks, Amanda. One of the major questions I've gotten in talking with people about the vaccine, is it safe? And it was approved pretty fast. And what does this emergency use authorization mean? So I want to just talk about those things. The emergency use authorization, which is currently approved under, was actually put in place after 9/11. It was really to ensure that potentially life-saving medications or products could be available for people in medical need when there's no approved alternative on the market. So when we don't have something to treat it, we can bring this forward before the full studies have been completed. And the standard says that it may be effective, and we have to believe that its known and potential benefits outweigh the risk. And again, we look at benefits versus risk for any medication that we take. And that's a judgment that our physicians make in every medication they prescribe. So for this COVID vaccine, it was a little bit different because the government, investigators with NIH, researchers, and then the manufacturers all got together and said, okay, here's what's going to be required for an EUA for this vaccine. You've got to study it in at least 30,000 people. Well, that's the number you need for a full study and for approval. It's got to have efficacy. And they said at least 50%. And actually the study of the two products we have, they're 94 and 95% effective respectively. So that's great. We also want this thing studied in people who are at higher risk. So most drugs, when we're first studying them, we're just using it in healthy people looking for adverse effects. This we wanted to use at people we knew were at greater risk of dying with COVID. So our elderly, folks with heart disease, lung disease, diabetes, and other risk factors. And then we also need to do the follow-up on these patients and looking for these outcomes. So both products are highly effective. We've seen that in studies. The Pfizer product was over 40,000 people. The Moderna was over 30,000. And there's really no advantage of one over the other. They're both a two-shot series. One is 21 days apart, the other's 28 days apart. So why isn't this thing already up for full approval? Well, for vaccines, one of the requirements is a long-term follow-up of patients after they get it. And because we had this pandemic and we needed treatment so much quicker, they said, you know what, follow folks for 2 months, it looks good, we will approve it, and we will continue following patients and we're going to do intense follow-up of everyone that receives this vaccine. And so that's indeed what has happened. So one of the things you've heard talk about is this anaphylactic reaction. This was not reported in the early trials. But now that we've used this in a few million people, we see this occurring, but it occurs in 1 out of 100,000 patients. So that means if we vaccinate everyone in Robeson County, then we will likely have one reaction at some point in time. But this is really no different than the rates we see with flu vaccines, with other things. So it's an extremely low rate, but we're also quite prepared to treat anyone that has this reaction at the clinic. And so that should not be a concern at all. The big question that we don't have answered at the moment is, how long is this effective? And that's why a long-term study follow-up is required for full authorization. Each of these companies have committed to following these patients, and they will be applying for full follow-up authorization once they have at least 1 year's worth of follow-up data on these patients. So we know it's safe. And at the end of the day, we're really looking to reduce the risk of anyone catching this COVID. And how do we do that? So again, we're still going to have to do many actions, because there's not a single thing we can do that is 100% effective. So the vaccine, 95%, that's great. If we wear a mask, we reduce risk. We social distance, we're reducing risk. And if you combine all of these things together, that risk reduction intensifies, so it really gets you much closer to zero risk. But there's not a 100% risk-free outcome that's going to be there. But we can minimize this, and we wash our hands, and we just do the things that we continue to be educated to do. And honestly, a lot of it is just flat out common sense. I want folks to get vaccinated because, again, that's a high efficacy rate. It works, 95%. So that really reduces your chance. And then selfishly, I want to get back to being able to go to sporting events with the crowd, see football, see basketball, and do these things, or what I say, get back to normal activities of daily living. Be able to go to church with a full group, be able to socialize with folks, and not be concerned of, they're coughing, or they got a little sniffle, I got to run away from them. And so I think all of these things are important, and this is an important tool to help us get back to what I call normal.
Thank you, Eric. And we have about 10 minutes left in our forum today. And so I'm going to ask Ms. Joann Anderson, President and CEO of UNC Health Southeastern. And Ms. Anderson, if you would just go ahead and say some final words and wrap us up as we conclude our forum today.
Okay, thank you, Amanda. I appreciate your pulling this forum together, and certainly appreciate the physicians that have been on here today, and not only talking about it from the standpoint as a provider and what it means for them and their patients, but what does it mean to them personally? And for Eric to give us the science behind the vaccine itself. You know, one of the things that I've heard over the past several weeks is, I want to wait and see. I want to wait and see how other people do. And my question is, what are you waiting to see? I mean, the first round of it was that they didn't release it at all until 30,000 or more people had already had the vaccine and been through 2 months follow-up on that. What are you waiting to see? We've now, and across North Carolina, vaccinated 100,000 or more. I mean, what are we waiting for? If you're waiting to see what other people, how they're going to respond to it and everything, there are plenty of examples just on this screen today. I took the vaccine as well, and took my second dose last Friday. I wasn't as fortunate as Dr. Stuart, so I did the following day wake up with a headache. I felt fatigued during the day. I did run a very low grade temp, but 2 Tylenol took care of it, and I was fine. It didn't stop me from doing anything that I wanted to do. I was able to do anything I wanted to do on Saturday. I did go to bed early Saturday night. I slept all night long really well. Woke up on Sunday and my arm was no longer sore. The headache was gone. The achiness was gone. Everything was fine. I've been fine since. I don't know if it's fear of the unknown. Some people just don't like injections at all. I don't either. But the reality is this is a tool that is going to help us in this fight against COVID. We've heard great reasons for why you should take it. I'm going to give you one more. I'm the president and CEO for a healthcare system that's trying to take care of this community. We've had over 350 employees who have been infected by COVID since it started. Every one of those individuals have been out of work for at least 2 weeks. You are dependent on us to provide you health care. If I don't have people who can work because they contracted COVID, we can't take care of you. Our ICUs are full right now. The emergency department is busy. Last week, we came into the highest census I've seen in the past 14 years. We need to have a bed available for you when you need it for other things other than COVID. About 80% of our patient population doesn't have COVID. They're coming to us for other reasons. But if the beds are filled with COVID positive patients, I can't take care of you if you have a heart attack, a stroke, a motor vehicle accident, your child falls and breaks their arm. I can't take care of your surgical procedure. I won't have a bed available for you. We all have to work together. This is not about any one of us individually. Yes, we may take the vaccine personally for ourselves because we don't want to get it. But the reality is we are an ecosystem and we work together. And it takes everyone stepping up to the plate and saying, I'm going to do my part. People on the screen have done their part in taking the vaccine, but they're doing their part every day to take care of you. So for me, my plea is take the vaccine so that these people can be there to take care of you when they're needed. Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you so much, Ms. Anderson. Thank you for our panelists. Again, we've had comments from Dr. Robin Peace, Dr. Dennis Stuart, Dr. Garik Misenar, Eric Locklear, and Ms. Joann Anderson. And thank you all again for joining us. And if someone has heard this today and they're moved to get their COVID vaccine and it's their turn and it's their phase, the number to the Southeastern COVID-19 vaccination clinic is 910-671-5395. That's 910-671-5395. Thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.